Yes, sir. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I normally don't need a mic. My voice is pretty loud, but this program has worked on that. People in this program have worked on me. Scott Alcoholic. Very happy to be here. Happy to be asked. Thank you, Louie. Saw him Saturday night at a meeting that I hadn't been to in 4 years. And he wanted me to lead. And I'm like, no, not that. Anything but that, please. I live in downtown LA now. And I looked up my plan was I was going to leave at like 6:20. And then I looked at the map and it said, you're going to be late if you leave then. I'm like, oh man, I don't drive much anymore. So this traffic thing out there is like, unusual for me to deal with. I'm very lucky in many, many ways. I work out of the house. I got a company in my home office. So this is very interesting. I'm in Arcadia. I grew up in Arcadia. I remember when the Shell station, I worked at the Shell station, the Arco station was just a rundown piece of shit. Arco station, just this small little thing. I would wait in line, the gas, when we had the gas crunch back in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
My job every few days was to hop into my dad's pickup truck and drive it down Santa Anita and do my homework while I was in line. And I started doing that when I had a learner's permit. So I grew up just up the street. I raised my kids just up the street. I got a divorce just up the street. Wow, it really brings back some memories. Wow. I was raised by 2 kids. My mother was 16 years old when I was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1962. My brother was born, I'm turning 60, yes, in just a couple of weeks. Can't believe that. And my dad, my bio dad, I call him, left when I was 3.5, right after my brother was born. And she remarried right away because the guy lived in Los Angeles. And so we moved to LA when I was 4.5. For many, many years, I thought we moved to LA when I was 6.5. And then I talked to my stepdad just months ago. He's like, no, you were 4.5. I'm like, what? Really? So I was raised, they were kids. They were kids. My life was, we had motorcycles. We had a boat. We would go out motorcycle riding during the winter, water skiing up at Lake Mead during the summer. We had the pleasure a few times going to Lake Powell. I will never, ever forget the first trip to Lake Powell. My parents and all their friends, everybody loaded up one houseboat with cases of beer. We sunk that houseboat so deep in the sand with just beer that we had to hire a speedboat with a lot of power to pull us off the sand. That's who I grew up with. if that gives you any idea. All their friends drank the way they drank. That's just what we all did. My first high was not alcohol. I didn't remember that until I was a couple years sober. It was just this one of our light bulb moments that I stole my parents' pot, and a buddy of mine rolled a joint when I was 11 years old. And he was really, really good at it. I don't know why he was so good at it. It was just this perfect rolled up joint. And so we started stealing their pot like almost daily when I was 11. And my father I remember we had a 3.5 car garage that did not have a car in it. And a third of it was just cases and cases of Foster's beer, just stacked on top of each other. So I learned at a very, very young age how to drink and do drugs. And I continued doing that until I got sober in August 30th, 2012. So I hit 10 years this year. Don't know how I lived. I really don't. My poor first wife, that woman, one thing that the steps do for you is really, really, if you do them thoroughly, I found out that I not only didn't love that woman, and I was married to her for 17 years, I didn't like her. And I found out that is really big, and there's a huge difference there between love and like. It's huge. It's a Grand Canyon gap. And I'm just like, once when that light bulb hit me, I was like, oh God, that poor lady. She was major Al-Anon and didn't know it. She thought she could change me. She thought she could take care of me. And, and she did help me stay alive for a while. I would do my thing, go out there running and ripping and everything for a while. And she'd lasso me and pull me back down to earth and be a father to our 2 kids. And so went through that marriage. The last day, she was all pissed off and just bent out of shape at me. And she came up to me and she said, "We're getting a fucking divorce." And I'm like, God, thank God, finally. Not really the words to say. I didn't have much of a filter. I didn't have any filter. Was a really wretched divorce in the aspect of the kids. I didn't care about the money, just we had a mill something or other house up in North Arcadia, sell it, you got it all. Take all the money, I don't care. Just leave me the F alone. And I didn't realize, I thought, oh great, this woman's gonna be out of my life. Well, we had 2 kids. And my drinking tripled. It just went nuts then. I'd thrown out, I went through high school and a number of years after high school where I did a lot of cocaine. I love that stuff, man. Loved it. As soon as I found cocaine, the pot was gone. Through therapy, I kind of worked out of what we could call the hard drugs. I don't know, I know some people call it, it's all drugs. It's all drugs. I don't care if it's just alcohol you've been drinking, it's all drugs. So went through that, Where's my timing? Oh, Jesus. Has it really been 10 minutes? Met my second wife at a bar, of course, and she had the owner of the restaurant that knew me very well send me a margarita. We got married 9 months later. So that was kind of an alcoholic move. And then we were married for between 4 and 5 years, something like that. And I was out in Palm Springs, and we both were. And I went into a major blackout. I don't remember ever blacking out for 2 or 3 hours at one time before. And I got physical with her. She told me, I have no reason to not believe her. I had her pinned down on the ground, and I was choking her and told her I was going to fucking kill her. She left, went to her sister's house. And so I did what we do, and I went to the strip club and continued to get shit-faced. And I wound up that night with an 8-ball. I hadn't done drugs in I hadn't done coke in over 20 years. The next day I'm just, came to, and I'm like, all right, I got to change my life. Somehow, some way, I got to change my life. And I stumbled into a meeting the next day. I stumbled Eisenhower Hospital, and a number of things had to happen just right for me to stay there, because they wanted me to wait for this meeting was way down in the basement, and it's hard to get to if you never been there before. So they had me wait over on the side, and I literally was seconds. I was like coming out of my chair because, I wasn't going to wait for somebody any longer. And the lady's like, oh, here comes one of you coming in right now. I'll have them walk you down there. I'm like, one of you? What the hell is one of you? So I got down to the meeting. You guys were like standing around, fucking drinking coffee and chit-chatting and whatever. And I walked into the room because I wasn't going to talk to anybody. And the secretary handed me the lead sheet and said, thanks for leading the meeting tonight. And I'm like, well, I'm new. She goes, oh, well, most of us that come in it's Palm Springs, everyone's new. Well, she thought I was an out-of-towner, She didn't know it was my first time walking into a meeting. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll lead your fucking meeting. Okay, sure. Which actually, helped me in a couple of things. It really fed my ego. That was nice for the first meeting. And I was God stepping in yet again, didn't let me walk out the door without one of you coming in, tied me to a chair for the whole meeting. I couldn't leave. I was leading it. I didn't know that I could say no. Thank God. I was tied to that chair. And I picked up this thing, and it says, lead. All right, I'm Scott, and I'm an alcoholic. And I didn't hesitate. I knew for many, many years I was. And I was okay with that as long as it killed me. And it wasn't killing me. Yet. So anyways, went through that, spent a few more days there, got a book, and in 2 days I read the book from cover to cover, because I didn't have anything else to do except for go to meetings and read. So for some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but that 164 pages just made sense to me. it just made total sense. I'm just like, every high school senior needs to read this fucking thing. Well, later on, a few years later on, it's like, well, there's a good reason why, they'll never get it. I do know people, I have friends that have gotten sober and stayed sober at 17 years old. But I wouldn't have gotten it. But so then I came into, took me a few days. The secretary's husband, he didn't even ask me. He just told me, he's like, I'm going to be your temporary sponsor until you go back to LA. I'm like, okay, fine. I don't know what that means, but sure, why not? We had breakfast, held my hand, took me to meetings. And I was so scared driving back to LA. I was just terrified. I didn't want to drive back home. I didn't have really a home to drive to. I was scared about my wife and what was going to go on there. And I remember being in the car driving to LA, end of August, it was early September then, whatever. And it was warm, and I had this like Bill moment, white light kind of feeling. It's more of a feeling that it was probably just the sun beating down on me in the car, but it just felt like this warm hand on my shoulder and said, don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. And I probably cried for the next hour in the car. Stayed in Pasadena at the Wyndham for about a week. Worked some things out. And bounced around meetings. Found the South Pasadena 6:30 a.m. meeting. Go there every day. Since I'm living in downtown now, I don't, I go like 2 or 3 times a week and I go to downtown, but I go to a meeting every day. I go to a meeting, my sponsor told me, he's like, well, I drank every day. Why wouldn't I go to a meeting every day? I love going to meetings. From the very first one, all I felt was love. The love in the room was just, the feeling of it was just so strong that I was just like, wow. And I couldn't wait to wake up the next morning and the next morning and the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning to go to a meeting. I couldn't wait. I worked through the steps. Divorced my second wife. She was really pissed off that I wanted to get sober. She was then really pissed off that I wanted to stay sober. She pulled out all the reports online about how we're a cult and all that. And just feed me all this. What do we got? 2 minutes? So we got a divorce, and then my current sponsor, I had since year 2, and we go to a Tuesday night meeting over on the west side that he's been going to for almost 40 years, and I now have been going to for almost 10. Crosstalk meeting. I got married a year ago, November 21st, a year ago. This woman came into my life and basically proposed to me after some time. She's sober. She's 7.5 or so years sober now. She works her program. I work my program. I tell her I'm leaving. I'm going, okay, bye. I make golf reservations, tea time, and I tell her afterwards, I got a tea time on Thursday. All right, whatever. it's a relationship that I never thought that I would have. Just like all the relationships that I have had, all these different meetings that I've gone to and go to. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, is people in my life that I can go to and ask for help. And I ask for help these days. I was taught not to ask for help. And you guys taught me it's okay to ask for help. And that's just huge, absolutely huge in my book. And I should close it up. What else? I absolutely adore this fucking program. I love AA. I have from the minute one that I stepped in my very first, and that's never faltered in my life. That is not fault. I've never had a feeling, fuck these guys, I'm out of here. No, never. And thank you. Thank you all for being a part of it, and I appreciate it.